everybody. This is Dr. Caroline, the CEO and founder of Fibrogenics, and I'm super excited to have with us again today our medical contributor, Dr. Darryl Bates, MD. Welcome, and it's so nice to chat with you again.
Thank you, and I'm glad to be chatting with you again, too.
Okay, so today I want to talk about anti-aging and biohacking. Now, anti-aging is very important to me because I'm turning 60 this year, and I just want to turn it back and back and back. I want to talk about the ways medically we can do that, as well as some of the more natural biohacking techniques. And I know with Fibrogenics, one thing that I've seen very consistently with a lot of people that first get at Fibrogenics when they're in their mid to late 60s or 70s, it turns the clock back even in the way they look and act and feel. And the reason that's happening is as we age, our cell voltage drops. As we become more toxic over time with different chemicals and things in our bodies. So Otto Warburg, he won his Nobel Prize for his work on cell voltage, and he actually started his research on cancer patients. And he said that cancer patients have a cell voltage of -15 to -20 millivolts. And as you well know, a cell has an overall negative charge, and that's by design because our cells need to repel from each other. So negative and negative push off from each other. That gives more surface area. The surface area of the cell is where all the exchange takes place. Nutrients are brought in and oxygen and waste products are taken out of the cell. And what he said is if you can get that cell voltage up to -70 to -90 millivolts, the body actually becomes a spontaneous self-healing machine, which is the way I believe God designed us in the first place. He said most people walking around just due to environmental toxins and what they put in their body run about -50 millivolts. People that catch all the colds and flus that come along are about -35 millivolts. And one thing that we discovered early on with the sound vibration technology, somebody brought it to our attention. She was a chiropractor that was obsessed with live blood cell analysis. She did it on all of her patients, and she actually had a mechanical machine, and then she bought the predecessor to our machine, the same exact technology of sound-based frequency. So you're moving in that sine wave instead of a mechanical motion. She would do before and after the sound technology, and there was a massive increase in the cell voltage in that live blood cell analysis. So they'd come in before pictures, your cells look like little pancakes because there's low cell voltage. They're not pushing away from each other. And in just 10 minutes, they looked much more normal. Not all of them were separated, but most of them were separated. The theory was that we're bringing up the cell voltage and the body is starting to spontaneously heal a lot of things. And in addition to that, we bring in all these other frequency formulas that have been developed by smart people, smarter than me, over the last 80 to 100 years. All we did was we converted everything into sound because like you said, and like I always say, the body is mostly water. Sound travels 5 times faster through water. So you're taking these anti-aging frequencies, putting them through the water system in your body. They're actually reaching every cell at the same time. And simultaneously, we're increasing the cell voltage. So the body gets to that point where it starts healing itself. And the most important thing, getting those cell voltage up, is that we're constantly making new cells. Every 48 hours, you have new rods and cones in your eyes. Every 2 years, your liver's been replaced. They say every 7 years, every cell's been replaced in your body. So if you have a healthy cell, you're replicating more healthy cells. You either become older or younger. You talked before about biological and chronological age, and they don't need to be the same thing.
Right.
And I think a lot of that is in healing the cell, but there's a lot of other ways to do that. And I'm really interested in talking to you about secretagogues. It's something you know a lot about. You made a statement to me in the past that kind of blew my mind, and that was that we produce the same amount of growth hormone, but we don't release as much growth hormone. Can you talk about that too?
Yeah, so this was something I learned when I started using peptides. So in medical school, I was under the impression, because this is what was taught, that as we get older, we produce less and less growth hormone. As adults, we actually produce roughly the same amount of growth hormone our entire adult lives. The issue is we secrete less and less as we get older. What the secretagogues do, and these would be something like ipamorelin or CJC-1295 or tesamorelin. These you use subcutaneously. You tend to use them at night on an empty stomach before you go to bed. What these do is it helps you secrete more growth hormone. And when you secrete more growth hormone, you get the effects. So people tend to have deeper, more restorative sleep. They tend to build more lean muscle mass. They tend to lose fat. And overall sense of well-being increases and energy levels tend to increase. Now, probably so much of that is just coming from having consistent good night's sleeps. But for some folks, this makes a huge difference. And this is something you can cycle on and off throughout the year. And especially when you improve upon your sleep, that's when you start to see a lot of other changes in your quality of life starts to improve as well.
Yeah. And the one thing I've noticed too, as you get older, it takes more time to recover, especially if you play hard. I love to slalom water ski and snow ski, and even working out, you don't recover as fast as when you were young. And that's one thing where Vibrogenics and I think even the secretagogues would be a huge advantage working together as a stack, because you recover so much faster. And then you can go out and play hard again the next day, even when you're almost 60.
Yeah. And, since you were talking earlier about Vibrogenics, I just want to mention a couple concepts. So there's your chronological age, right? How many birthdays you've had. There's your biological age. Now, your biological age could be the same as your number of birthdays. It could be more, it could be less. When I was there with you, we did the neural check, and it gave my estimation of a biological age. And I think I was 14 years younger. And so there's a couple factors that can go into that. So one could be your rate of aging. So for each calendar year that goes by, your biological age could match that annual or that calendar year. Or it could be that your rate of aging is actually slower than the calendar. So let's say for every 12 months of the calendar, your biological age was 9 months. Year after year after year, if you're comparing yourself to your peers, every year you're 3 months younger. And that starts to add up. And so I think with Vibrogenics, one of the things that's probably happening is it's probably stimulating your stem cells, which are helping to educate and train your other cells to stay younger and to be active. And then with the cell voltage, by having your cell voltage be in that -70 to -90 range, you're actually creating the environment that your body needs in order to heal itself. And what I learned after medical school was if you create the right environment for your cells and for your tissues, the body naturally wants to heal itself. It wants to return to homeostasis. So if you give it the correct environment for long enough, that's usually what's going to happen.
Yes. And other things that are obviously very important is keeping the body alkaline, keeping the body moving, especially as you age. If you don't exercise and strength train at all, you'll lose up to 4 pounds of muscle a year. And that is really profound. You notice how people, when they get older, they seem to shrink. And part of that's dehydration. Even in the bones, they just get smaller and smaller and smaller, but especially that muscle loss. So it's really critical to keep moving, to detoxify, to put the right foods in your body and really take care of yourself. But I think that there's a lot that you can do with nutrition, with fluid, with peptides, and with the home healing modalities to really reverse the aging process.
Could you expand on the alkalized blood? Because I think that's something that can confuse certain folks, especially since there's so many products in the water aisle that are selling different waters and such.
Absolutely. So the key is to alkalinize your system. As we both know, the blood stays pretty homeostatic, but the tissues can become very acidotic. And the reasons behind that, a lot of them are dietary. A lot of people eat sugar, they drink alcohol, eat red meat, and they have a lot of emotional stress. And those 4 things are very acidifying for the body. So usually it's best to get some pH strips and test your urine and kind of the same time every day, because you kick out acidic metabolites in a cycle. Everybody's cycle is different, but if you do it at kind of the same time every day, you'll get a good idea of where you're at. And the reason we want to avoid an acidic environment is you get all kinds of inflammation, not only in your gut, but in your joints, in all of your tissues. And it sets up the perfect environment for cancer to thrive. So cancer can't live in an alkaline environment. I've done it. I've been down this road, and I went extreme alkalinizing for 4 months. All I did was juice. I ate lots and lots of ginger. Ginger is the most alkalinizing food you can eat. If you can't stand that, you can take sodium, potassium bicarbonate and mix it in water, but I much prefer ginger. And you'll see it cut back on the acidity and push you toward the alkaline level. Also getting rid of sugar. Sugar is such an inflammatory agent in the body. And so is alcohol. At least cut it down as best you can. Red meat, sure, still enjoy it once in a while, but don't make it something you eat every day. And then probably the trickiest emotionally is emotional stress. And it's really quite profound, the effect that emotional stress has on creating acidity in the body. There's lots of different products. There's a lot of alkaline water out there. As long as it's pure water, I'm not against it. But once you drink alkaline water and it hits the acidity and the hydrochloric acid in your stomach, it becomes acid. So it is actually a much better tactic to eat foods. I mean, even lemon, it's very acidic in your mouth, but when it's metabolized and absorbed, it becomes an alkaline. Same thing with coffee. It's the opposite of what you'd think. It seems acidic, it's acidic in your stomach, but when it's absorbed, it actually becomes an alkaline. So lemons, the citrus fruits are really good for that. Not so much oranges. They get a little bit higher in sugar, but ginger has got to be everybody's best friend.
Yeah,
Ginger's the bomb.
Yeah.
I keep it on a little cutting board because I pay attention to my pH all the time now, just because of what I went through. 4 months of juicing and tons of ginger and drinking lots of aloe and all of that, but really paying attention to that and using the frequencies as well. But I don't believe that you can keep living an unhealthy lifestyle and just use frequency medicine and pretend it's going to be okay. You're going to be better, but if you're up against like a major disease process like that, you have to hit it from all angles. And it's just the pH side of things and the nutrition side of things is so important.
I need to second, third, and fourth that because there are times when people are asking me for some of these more pricier modalities or treatments. And I have to explain to people, you need to cover the bases. You need to cover the foundations of health, nutrition, your exercise, your hydration, how you are interacting with your community, how you feel, how you contribute to your community, society, to the world. These are things that are so important, and these are literally the foundations of health. And you need to have these set before you start building up higher and higher. So for most people, if they can address the foundations of health, most everything else is going to start to fall into place.
For sure. And I think everything works together beautifully. And if you want to be on the right track with biohacking, you really address all areas.
Yes, not just one. What's nice about biohacking, and I mean, that's what we call it now, but for us, we've been essentially experimenting on ourselves and improving upon ourselves the entire time. But what's nice about biohacking is it really does allow you to become self-reflective of what's best for you. And then you get a chance to try different things and see what works for you as an individual. I've also seen for a number of people, something that didn't work in the past could work today. Something that did work well in the past may not work today because we're different people, right? And we evolve and we change.
I think biohacking can even be your mindset because the mind controls so much of the physical health of the body, and positive thoughts and gratitude and finding ways to be calm and forgive. I think that's a really key component to the body being healthy and thriving.
Yeah, and that can be really hard work too.
It can be, but we have frequencies that'll help with that. There's one in TBSW, it's trilateral balanced sine wave. It's kind of like trinaural beats instead of binaural beats that most people are familiar with because it has another tone in there for the base brain or midbrain. But there's a frequency formula in there called intuition. And I actually use that a lot with the scalar waves on because scalar waves are one of the fastest ways to get your cell voltage up. Tesla actually came up with those, discovered them. And I use the intuition, and a lot of that has to do with self-reflection and direction, because I need to be ultimately the most intuitive about me to be able to see what I need to change to be the best version, the healthiest version of me.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not to
great.
Read everybody else's mind.
And that intuition, I like that one. And then if I'm imagining in my head, if you go up a little bit, there's deep sleep, there's sleep. I think below that there's a shamanic set.
Yeah, there's mind expansion too.
There's mind expansion as well. Yep. Yeah, so those are very good. Very, very good.
Yep. And there's one in there called rejuvenation, and it actually has the frequency 528 that is actually used by NASA, that was very heavily studied at UCLA and Stanford. And they found that it actually regenerates DNA. So that's actually one of the ancient tones. It's called Transformation and Miracles. But NASA actually uses that for regeneration for the cosmonauts. 528.
Nice. Okay.
In ancient tones, and it's in rejuvenation. A lot of people call rejuvenation the God frequency because that's how it makes them feel. Like it's really healing everything, like the hand of God sort of thing. But I really like that. I use the ancient tones all the time. An interesting fact, NASA said that that's the frequency the sun puts out, and Jupiter is 528. There's just so much more for us to learn about the universe, about ourselves.
Yeah, so with the anti-aging, I feel as if there's a lot that can be done, but using the vibrogenics on a regular basis, I understand now why people start to look younger the more that they're using it.
Good stuff. I'm on it first thing every morning, right after my massage chair. I meditate in my massage chair, and then I jump right on my vibrogenics.
That's a good way to start the day. I like that.
It is. It is. Thank you so much for your time. I see that your kiddos are home. I'll let you go and get to them. But I really appreciate you so much.
Thank you very much.